Today we are interviewing Sarah Mauldin, who is Director of Library Services for the Atlanta law firm of Smith, Gambrill, and Russell, Limited Liability Partnership. Sarah, let's begin with a little personal history. Can you tell us where you were raised and about your family when you were young and today?
I was born and raised in Atlanta. I have wandered away for a while, but I've come back. In fact, my parents still live in the same house they lived in when I was born. And I went to public schools all the way through. I got a full scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, which I had never even thought of existing, and went out there and had a ball. Started out to be a pharmacist, and then figured out I didn't love chemistry enough, and then went to be a public administrator, and then decided that I didn't like the people I was in classes with enough, and then found the greatest major of all time, letters. History, philosophy, literature, and languages. Hebrew, German, and Latin. So that is it turned out to be the perfect major. It was the major in going to college, which was wonderful. I have two sisters who both live here. I also have I'm married and to someone that I met at the University of Oklahoma, even though he is from South Carolina. And so my degrees are from Oklahoma and from the University of Texas, which is occasionally a little difficult. And he and I have lived in Austin and Las Vegas and now in Atlanta.
Let's move on a little bit to your career in law librarianship. Could you share with us a little about how you decided to become a law librarian as opposed to perhaps some other kind of librarian? Or did someone perhaps play a role in this?
Okay.
And recruit you into our branch of the profession?
Well, once I started out into letters, I had to figure out what I was going to do with that, because it is the going to grad school major. And my mother was absolutely horrified when she learned that this was going to happen, because one of my sisters has a degree in English and the other one has a degree in technical theater. Not well-paying, employable sorts of jobs. And so my mother said, oh, you have to do something else. You have to have a minor, something. So I ended up taking a minor in MIS. So I learned a great deal about databases and database construction and said, you know what, librarianship, that might be all right. And my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, his mother's a public librarian, so he was like, yeah, that'd be all right. I think you could do that. And so I went looking for something to do over the summer when I came back home to Atlanta. And I called the Jimmy Carter Library and said, have you got anything? And Bob Bohannon, who was the managing archivist there, supervising archivist there at the time, said, hey, why don't you come on over and just work for the summer? So I worked for free. No one knew who I was. The government didn't know about me. And I organized the Robert Odie collection. He's the oldest Iran hostage. And so his collection consisted mostly of pictures from children who said, I hear you're a hostage, and my mother says that's bad. So lots of crayon drawings. And his fight to get back pay for his time in Iran and as a hostage. And there I met David Gracie, who had come to do a little workshop with the archivists at Jimmy Carter. And he is the ultimate evangelist for archives. The minute you talk to him, you want to be an archivist. You say, this is the perfect job for me. There's nothing that could be better. Also, another interesting note, Sally Wise is his niece, who has been he's at University of Miami as the director of that law library right now. So I move on to Texas, which was a little odd for having a degree from Oklahoma. And when I get down to Texas, I start my archives program, and it's wonderful. Everything is great. And then I met Roberta Schaefer, who was the dean of the library school at that time. And she told a story that made me go, I am in the wrong place. So I broke David Gracie's heart because I figured out, also by then I was working at the Lyndon Johnson Library and had really come to the conclusion that everything in an archive is there forever. So there's not much in the way of deadlines, and I really require deadlines. So law is perfect. Law firm is even more perfect. So that's how I ended up doing it. At the University of Texas, they mostly create public librarians, school librarians, and academic librarians, and information architects. But Roberta was there, and so she helped me to put together an independent study course so that I not only got my degree, my MLIS, I also got a specialization in law libraries. So I had to go down to St. Mary's in San Antonio to take legal research. I had some other wonderful classes that were guest taught the best one was the one that was guest taught by Linda Will, Carl Gruben, and, oh gracious, what's his name? I'll think of it. Kingsley Martin. So all, lights in the legal world. And it just, everything that I did made me say, this is for me. This is what I want to do. This is so cool. And I have the best time going to work every day because I do the fun part of law without the boring, suing people parts.
I imagine some of your attorneys think that what they're doing is the fun part.
Well, yes. But interesting people ask me questions all day. What could be more fun?
Yeah. Sounds like you had to go a bit of a distance to study how to be a legal researcher down there. San Antonio is several hours from Austin.
No, San Antonio, only about an hour and a half.
Yeah, of course now they have that new super high-speed road that if you can afford to drive on and pay the tolls.
We actually had several carpools that went down. There were a number of us that needed a class, and it was during the summer semester, so we did carpooled, and it turned out wonderfully. And again, I probably now, because I have the legal research class I took, am a better researcher than most of my attorneys.
That sounds interesting. Could we change the focus slightly, though, and have you talk a little bit about your present position and perhaps some of the things you've been able to do here with the firm?
Well, I am the Director of Library Services here at Smith Gambrell. Smith Gambrell is an Atlanta firm that was founded in 1893 and has gone through a series of mergers, acquisitions, and such to become a firm that now has offices in Atlanta, Jacksonville, Washington, D.C., New York City, and Frankfurt, Germany. So I don't ever get to go to Frankfurt, though. And I came in here, this is the largest firm that I've ever been in. Our first firm was 80 attorneys, and I was the only law librarian at a firm in the whole state of Nevada for a while. And that was the big law firm. And now here I am, we're at about 170 to 180 and have 2 professional librarians on staff, which is a difficult ratio to work out, but we do it. We do really well. And my assistant librarian, Betty Wright, came to me from Georgia State. So her legal research knowledge is great. And she knows how to do people like you wouldn't believe. Everybody loves her. So what we've been doing here is a lot of really marketing and getting people to understand what the library does, why the library is here, especially as we bring in new attorneys. We merge in new firms occasionally, and letting them understand that the library is here to do all the stuff that they didn't learn how to do in law school, or the stuff they learned how to do but don't remember how to do, or the stuff that we do better, faster, cheaper. So I've implemented a couple of really great things that I think they're great things. I've gotten a usage tracking service, so I can now tell you exactly how many people log on to HeinOnLine every day. And I can also tell who used Pacer, because that was a problem. And that's been good. I've worked very closely with the IT department on that. I've always had a good relationship with IT. I'm also working closely with marketing on a lot of our marketing work, so they understand that they don't necessarily have the skills that they need to find the information, and they are always willing to give credit, which is not the way it is everywhere. And other than that, I do reference and I do pay the bills and do all of the not very exciting parts of the job.
Sounds like a typical director's position.
Yes.
You do whatever needs to be done that nobody else has been assigned how to do it.
Yes, I refer to myself actually in my whole law firm career as the other duties as assigned girl, because more of what I do is not what I was trained to do than what I do. I'm also I was given Camtasia after lobbying the IT department, and so I actually screencast little bitty lessons on how to do certain things. So if it's 3 in the morning and an attorney needs to know how to do something, they can click there and see it instead of calling me and getting me out of bed.
I remember years ago the academic librarians in DC got together a couple of times a year just to sort of get to know each other and network. And one time we were over at Georgetown, and they had a pub in the building in those days. Maybe they still do. So we were having a little libation in the afternoon, and everyone decided that somebody decided we'd all stand up and introduce ourselves, because there were a lot of new folks, and they didn't know who everybody was, and then we'd tell what we did. So when my turn came, and I was sort of towards the end, I stood up briefly, told them who I was, that I was the director of American, and nobody knows what I do. And I sat down, and no one challenged me. But when you say, you know, the head librarian does sort of what needs to be done that somebody else isn't assigned to do.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot of your job.
It is, and my mother-in-law is a public librarian, and her job is a completely different world than my job, and we don't really understand each other sometimes.
It is a very different kind of job. And, you know, being a retired director, I preferred my job to all the more fixed ones in the place, but maybe if I'd had one of those, I would have seen it differently. Sounds like you and I share a lot in common.
Yes.
Yeah. Sarah, you have obviously seen and experienced many changes in law libraries during the past few years. And these have especially impacted on the ways many of our colleagues, and especially in the private sector, meet the needs for access to legal information of their attorneys, their paralegals, and others in the firm. Could you tell us a bit about how this has affected how you go about managing a library?
Well, we are doing a lot less print. That has become something, because of the way this firm grew. It started out as a firm in Atlanta. So we have a huge print collection here. We've been in the same building for more than 20 years. And we're the first firm in Atlanta to put in compact shelving. So we have lots of room, lots and lots of room. So I have a whole lot of print here. And I have a whole lot of people who love their print. But as we've absorbed offices up and down the East Coast, we've discovered that it's not cost effective or space effective to have print in all those offices. So I've been slowly moving people over to online versions of things. We have the online version of Standard Federal Tax Reporter. I still don't get to get rid of the books here because I have somebody who loves them. But, and I'm also, if my budget gets approved the way I would like it to, I will move to almost all of our CCH content online and all of our BNA content online. We're a very BNA heavy firm, so that will be an interesting thing. I spend a lot of time evaluating new services, showing people things, saying, what do you think? Will this work for you? Is this something that will make you do your job better? Because I always tell people, especially the new ones, that we're here to help you do your job the very best way you can. And if you need something, you have to ask for it, or if I bring something to you, at least take a look at it. Don't be afraid of new stuff. And we have a few people, it's like every law firm, there are a few people who will only do things this one way. They do not want a computer, they do not want anything, they want a book, and sometimes I have to say, no, you can't have that. In fact, to the point that a book that I bought recently only came electronically. They said that it wouldn't work as a book. It was too fluid a topic. So it's a worldwide pre-merger notification. So it works great as an electronic resource. It would be a horrible book.
Mm-hmm. Years ago, they would probably love that because that would have been a nice loose leaf service, and you could buy supplementation that would arrive about every week.
Oh yes.
Pay some poor guy to file it and hope he did it.
Yes.
Because you couldn't tell if he hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
Could you comment a little bit about the role you foresee as evolving in law firm librarians, libraries in particular, and maybe perhaps in the next decade or so?
Well, we have to become leaders in the firm. We have to say, we have good ideas, we know what we're talking about. We're not just that nice lady who sits up in the library and doesn't know anything. You've got to go out and be a part of your firm. This firm, I have not been on the softball team, but I have been on the softball team at other firms. I go to every social event that is available, all of that in order to get in where I know my attorneys and they understand what we do, how we can help them, and also make ourselves indispensable. And there's going to be a lot of technology that we're going to have to learn in the next few years to make ourselves indispensable. And, you know, we will, as more and more information exists and is available, and they're not teaching it in law school, then we're going to spend a lot more time doing business research and competitive intelligence research and working on knowledge management and really providing a system that will work so that attorneys throughout, I mean, we're a global law firm now, and I can't have print in every office. So it's a lot of making decisions and making hard decisions and making decisions that occasionally make people very upset. And that's going to go on for a long time. We're never going to get to the point where everyone has exactly what they need, when they need it, and what they want. But they'll have something, and they're going to get it, and it's going to be good, whatever they get. So it's a definite, a slight change in roles that we need to be out there saying, this is what is important. Always, I email all sorts of wonderful blog posts to people just because I'm aware of what they are interested in, or, oh, you should think about this. This would be a good thing for you to consider in your job. And again, always being out in front, always saying, hi, here I am, pay attention, the library's here.
That kind of outreach has got to be important, I know, in the firms, but in all the other sectors that we serve as a profession as well. Absolutely,
and one of the things that I've been doing, and I've actually gotten to do it several times, and sometimes live via Skype, is go in and talk to advanced legal research classes about what it is that they are going to see and feel and experience when they make it out into the big real world. And that statutes exist, and that regulations exist, and that secondary sources exist. The world is not the cases that they were told about in torts. Because if you look at modern law school curriculum, or actually all law school curriculum for all time, you would say cases are the only thing that exists in American law. And it's not reasonable for that to continue. So we need to do a lot more outreach to law schools and help people to understand what is what the other side is doing. One of the things that I've actually, now it's been accepted for both the SEAL meeting and AALL in Seattle, is a program on the technologies that are used in law firms. That most law school librarians have no idea what they are because they either haven't practiced or practiced so long ago that these things didn't exist. And if you're going to get your students employed, and they're going to be employed in good places, making good money, doing what they should be doing, what they expected to be doing when they get out of law school, then they have to learn how to use all of these tools and not be afraid of them. So
I think the fear factor is, if you can eliminate or reduce that, that's most of the battle right there.
Absolutely.
Everyone is willing to learn if they're not afraid of learning.
Right, and everyone can do it. And that's another thing that I've been doing in the firm, is I also cultivate everyone. I talk to the paralegals, I work with the secretaries, and so that they will go, oh, the library can help you with that. It's a huge thing. Yeah. It's great. I get to orient everyone that comes through the door to work here.
That all sounds like it probably makes it for a very interesting job in so many ways.
It is so much fun.
Sarah, I know that the Atlanta Law Libraries Association is a very active group. Could you share a little information about how that group operates? Does it hold formal meetings, for example? Does it foster the interlibrary cooperation that so often typifies the private sector in other cities? Is there any type of continuing education programs, that sort of thing?
ALA meets every month on the second Tuesday at noon from September to May. The last meeting is always the business meeting / luncheon / AALL representative comes talks to us. And because of who I am and how I started my position, where I was the only one and needed peers, I immediately, when I got here, that email went out that said, who wants to be nominated to run for things? And I said, I'll be anything but treasurer. So guess what? I was president. And that was a lot of program planning, because that is 8 meetings a year. One of which is the holiday party. I implemented not only an evening holiday party, but a holiday party that happens with the SLA Georgia chapter, because I believe deeply in the importance of us knowing business librarians and science librarians and consulting librarians and librarians in any way you can find them. And we need to be talking to each other and saying, this is what I do. I recently met in this building a few floors below us, there's a design firm. They have a librarian. I was like, what do you do? What do you have? She has books of carpet samples and such, and also books about nature. So lots of big, pretty coffee table sized books, which the designers will come in and look at just for inspiration. So I thought that was fascinating. And Atlanta Law Libraries has done some other things. We've had a legal research institute. We are working on doing more for pro se litigants and training training non-law librarians at the public library at universities to provide basic service and when to not provide service because it's UPL. So that's probably the most important thing that gets said is these are the things you can't do. Don't try them. I don't care how much that person looks sad and wants you to help them. If someone's not literate enough to read a form, they need assistance, and there is assistance available. So that's what legal aid is for. That's what lots of other programs are for. So as much as you want to help them, you can't do it unless you've got a JD and are actually practicing.
I often people who come in like that think there's one magic book someplace under the desk that you're just being
Oh, yes.
unreasonable to refuse to show.
Well, and the court clerk said, go to the library, they'll help you. They know exactly how to help you. They'll give you everything you need.
The court clerks are great, aren't
Yes,
they?
yes.
Do something like that.
Yes.
Gets the person out of their office.
Yes.
That's the agenda. Well, thank you, Sarah, for allowing us to visit with you today and for taking these few moments to share so much about yourself and about our profession. Before closing, however, is there anything you would like to add before we conclude today's interview?
The only thing that I can really think of is that I've been very active in all manner of professional associations, actually since I was in library school. I was the SLA co-chair of the UT GLSIS chapter of special libraries, and that working as a firm librarian, being involved in professional associations is probably the most important thing that I do, because it means that I can call pretty much anyone in the country and they will answer the phone, they will talk to me. If I need to understand something, like last week I needed to find out when a bill in Massachusetts became effective. Called someone up in Massachusetts that I knew and said, how does this work? And they told me, and it was done. I didn't spend 3 hours researching it. I just found out. And so that's something that the collegiality and the working together and the being involved, even if all you do is go to the holiday party, go meet somebody, go find somebody that knows something you don't know, and go learn it. Because by nature, we are curious as librarians, and it always hurts me when I see people that don't appear curious. So go forth and be curious and meet new people.
Again, thank you, Sarah, for taking this time this afternoon to talk to us.
You're very welcome.